Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rise Above Justice Movement, the podcast. My name is Zachary Mallory, and I am the founder and the host of the Rise Above Justice Movement and the Rise Above Justice Movement, the podcast. Today, I'll give a viewer discretion as advised due to the nature of the topics that we'll be discussing. We'll be talking about a number of different things that could be a little, just viewer discretion as advised due to the nature of those topics. I try to avoid using trigger warnings because it makes it sound like I am the one that is being triggering versus the topics that's just suggested through friends that I have that are counselors and psychologists. Um, just give a viewer discretion as advised due to the nature of those topics. But as I said, I'm Zachary. We are back with our weekly show. This is the Solidarity Hour with Zachary and Gwen. And, Gwen, welcome back, my friend.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Absolutely. I think we've been doing a candidate series. We put a pause on the weekly series, and it was going to be bi-weekly, but due to my own mental health, I got really overwhelmed, with my mom's cancer diagnosis, still battling that, and then still working on getting her housing, and it's just a whole like mess. So we put an end, or I guess put an end is not the correct way to phrase that, but we ended or wrapping up our candidate series, and now we're back into the weekly show. We have this one, and then we have a new one that is called the Justice Hour, which will be hosted by myself and then co-hosted by Sarah de Armand, who's very focused and like justice related, works with formerly incarcerated people, works with people that are on death row. There's a number of different things that she does, and she's based in Alabama. And yeah, I'll be also be doing my own weekly show, which stay tuned for that because it's going to be a 2 hour show. So it's going to be a lot. But, without further ado, Gwen, how are you doing? How's everything going in Nashville? How's everything going in your life at the very moment?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, I feel like I'm excited for all the things that are happening in terms of like Rise Above Justice Movement and putting new music out and, just being really, really busy and seeing a lot of growth on social media. But it's very overwhelming. There's a lot going on, and I find myself, asking myself, how do I balance this? How do I do this day to day? And, as things kind of pile up and how do I like spread things out? And I think I'm just like readjusting to all of the wonderful things we have going. But yeah, it can be a lot. And as you said earlier, Zachary, just like, we're talking about like mental health. And I've just been really focused on putting my mental health first. And because if I can't give back to myself, then I'll have nothing to give back to this movement, to all of the work we're doing and all of the stories we're trying to highlight. And, it can be really taxing and very heavy just dealing with it every day. And I think Zachary, to a point, we always have empathy. We're very empathetic people. We're survivors, but sometimes you can become just kind of like maybe like desensitized to a lot of it. You get used to like hearing these stories, these horrific stories, but it sometimes it just hits you and you got to take a break. And I think I'm just trying to again balance all of that. And yeah, I mean, again, like mental health is so important. How are you doing?
I would have to say probably the same. And I think what's going to help is doing this weekly show and kind of get it all out at once and then kind of focus social media on just like more like informing people like things that are still going on, like still doing the same thing. But I think we can get a lot of the like deeply like triggering necessarily things out now versus later on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And just
absolutely.
kind of focus on that a little bit. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like, just like one thing I'll add to is yesterday, I was talking to my mom this morning. She's like, I was just done. And I know we're going to be talking about this, but when she saw what
Mhm.
the DOJ is doing with the IRS and
Mhm.
giving about $2 billion to people who tried to basically kill, I would say, yeah, like kill police officers, Capitol police officers, and you're trying to get into our, to our politicians in Congress.
Mhm.
It's just like so disgusting. And then the clause that we actually posted about Rise Above from a really amazing lawyer, Liz Orlin. I think Liz
Liz
Orlin.
Oyer.
Liz
Hmm.
Oyer, excuse me.
Hmm.
She was saying that there's this clause in there saying that, Trump can never be audited, his family will be audited, never be
Hmm.
audited forever.
Hmm.
And it is so corrupt and disgusting. And the
Yep.
fact that nobody in Congress, nobody in the Senate are standing up. I mean, historian Heather Cox Richardson said the Constitution was set up so that, checks and balances would be there. And here we are seeing, like, I mean, the most corrupt administration in our history. So it's so enraging, and I
Hmm.
just think, like, again, how do I, like, give back to myself and keep my mental health safe? I really feel like we have to protect our mental health right now because they are really trying to bombard us with all of this crap.
And it's intentional.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is directly by design, is directly intentional.
Yeah. Steve Bannon
And
said that it's like a tactic used. It's
mhm,
psychological warfare is what it is.
mhm, 100%. And yeah. So speaking of psychological warfare, I was watching the Georgia elections last night. And of course, like other ones, there were some like
That too.
really exciting wins last night, like
Yeah.
Chris Rabb in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania,
Yeah. We gotta
challenging
highlight the
challenging
wins.
that
Yeah.
status quo and going against the machine,
Yep.
this Democratic machine and the Republican regime. And I think, I'm really excited to see more progressive voices like Chris win. He didn't take any PAC money, didn't take any APAC money, and Chris is a current state representative, and he's done some very incredible things in the state of Pennsylvania. So congratulations, Chris. I look forward
Yeah.
to calling him the next congressman out of Pennsylvania. So excited about that. But your parents live in Georgia, so I would love for you
Yes.
to kind of talk a little bit about, you know, um, did you talk to your mom this morning about like election results and such? So I'm curious to know, what's her reactions to everything? What's your reaction? And, let's talk about what happened in Georgia last night, because oof, it was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, my parents, and my mom's about to be 71. And so they even said, and they've been voting their whole lives. And they were saying how this ballot, when they went to vote, was so long. And I noticed, so I'm from Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. And whenever we voted in that state, they always had like who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, who's an independent listed next to the name. Since moving to Tennessee since 2017, they don't have that next to the candidates. And I think that's all by design. Even though this was like you get a Democratic ballot and a Republican ballot for this specific election, but it was my mom was talking about how it was very confusing. And a lot of it just seemed like the thing that is so upsetting too is it was like a historic turnout in Georgia, like over 1 million people like for that first like early voting, and that was mainly Democrats. So like the Democrats who turned out for the primary versus the Republicans was more, yet the three Supreme Court justices that we needed in there didn't get voted in, and it was because it was so confusing. A lot of people weren't educated on the ballot and what was at stake. Like they didn't understand the candidates, and I think that that is a lesson for the Democratic Party. Again, we need to be educating people as much as possible, and we tried. Like we collaborated with an organization that was, ha basically like collaborating with creators to get the word out about this election. And we had done that with the Pennsylvania election when the Supreme Court justices ended up being retained that we needed. But unfortunately, it didn't happen this time. And I remember I just was in the group chat, the Georgia creator group chat today, just like, I just don't understand like how this happened. And it basically was like a lack of education. So, yeah, those results are very upsetting, especially since, one of the biggest things on the ballot right now is like reproductive rights and obviously immigration and just voting rights, everything that like we're like, God, like, can we preserve some of this? So it's unfortunate that the conservative judges that are like totally against human rights were retained in Georgia. But I am glad that I have that perspective from my parents where they even were like, this ballot is really long and it's very confusing. But as you always say, Zachary, it's all by design, right? So, again, the 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 creator group chat was like, at least we know what we have to do next time. And I'm like, okay, yes. But what the heck?
Exactly.
On top of all the other news that came out yesterday and this
Yeah,
so it
which
was only Tuesday and it was like, whoa, all this news.
and
Yeah.
it's been a wild news cycle. I think, I text you a lot that happens, and it's not
Same.
that's just a scratch on the surface. That's not even like beyond like what I've actually been reading, and I'm still ingrained in focusing on what's going on, and also still, maintaining my own mental health and stuff like that. But this actually does keep me going,
Yeah.
and this is like my literal life that
Yeah.
I love doing. And I sat down and interviewed Noelle Heatherland again, who's based in Georgia as well.
Yeah.
And I do want to highlight really quickly that Bentley Hudgens won their primary last night.
Yes.
And should Bentley be elected in November, Bentley will break history in the state of Georgia by being the very first non-binary representative elected. This is incredible. So there is momentum. Things are changing. Things are shifting. I was texting with one of our other members, Sarah in Alabama. She was at a watch party for her friend that's running for U.S. Senate and is now headed to a runoff election. So, congratulations to Dakari, first of all.
Yes.
Super excited to see that. Super excited to continue watching that. The downfall to that is Tommy Tuberville won the GOP primary to be the next governor of Alabama, but he's facing Doug Jones when whatever I tell you, this is going to be the showdown of 2026. This is a rematch. Because if you
Oh
remember
yeah.
right, Doug Jones was in the US Senate. And then Tommy Tuberville came in and wiped him out of the Senate. Now they're going head to head again for this governorship. This is going to be
Wow.
really interesting. It's a rematch. And it's almost like it was intentional to get that revenge.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be really exciting, right? And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like there are things that are happening. Like
Yeah.
even if the
Like
results don't come out the way that we want to, we know that people are sick of this shit.
so sick of it. And actually, I was glad to see Keisha Lance, who is, black woman. She won over 50% of the vote
Yes.
for Democratic primary. So that was good news as well. And then
Hmm.
we can even talk about, I think you're talking about Alabama and, we're talking about these red states, Georgia, Tennessee, and,
Hmm.
Kentucky. Let's go to Kentucky. I think they get counted out, but, Kentucky did elect Governor Andy Beshear. So that is something to remember. But even though Thomas Massey lost, like, I
Hmm.
think it also shows how, well, first of all, as we were talking, to Harry Dunn yesterday, just how
Hmm.
ingrained Citizens United just literally like screwed us all. And the fact that an individual can't donate or can only donate like $6,100, but a corporation can donate like endless amounts of money. And that's why we saw like APAC and like other like other organizations, corporations just so invested in this election with Thomas Massey, and it was historic, right? There was like over 30 million, almost $40 million spent on this election, um, just to remove one person. And I think the positive thing we should think about is like, okay, they have to spend so much money. They feel like they have to
Hmm.
spend so much money because they're
Hmm.
scared. Like they know, like they are not popular and, it's a pattern we're seeing, right? Like people coming in that are just like trying to buy things up. And we've seen it, well, unfortunately, it worked this time, but we've seen it where it hasn't worked, where the billionaires or
Absolutely.
corporations come in and um basically like try to buy the vote and it hasn't worked, but
Hmm.
yeah. I do want to say something like with Thomas Massey, and when is Harry Dunn's interview coming out? Is that next Friday?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were just like talking about how with the Epstein files, like we are obviously like grateful that he spoke up about that and then, going against Trump and like the corruption. But Harry Dunn did make a very, very good point that Thomas Massey and Republicans like him helped enable Trump and got us to where we are today. And I think it is something important to acknowledge because I've seen a lot of rage online about Thomas Massey losing, and I agree, it's enraging, but also, he helped lead to his own downfall. So, yeah, that definitely like when Harry Dunn said that yesterday, I was like, oh, yeah, he's right.
I always say like leading to their own demise because that's exactly
Yeah,
what it is, and it's one of those things like you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes,
exactly.
and that's the reality of that. And politics is no exception to that.
Yep.
And speaking of politics, kind of moving on a little bit, there was a headline this morning that broke on NPR that Barney Frank, former congressman and gay rights pioneer, has died at the age of 86. This is significant because he was a literal icon and gay rights pioneer who represented Massachusetts in Congress for more than 3 decades. I'll say this, I'm in favor of turbulence for a very specific reason, but
Oh, yeah.
he passed away last night at his home, according to a close friend who confirmed his death to member station GBH. He was 86 years old and had been receiving hospice care for congestive heart failure. It's significant. I learned about Frank quite a while ago, like many, many years ago. And he was the first member of Congress to voluntarily come out and also the first to marry a same-sex partner while being
Mm,
in Congress. Um, I think he did a lot in a relatively short time, and he did a phenomenal job. So, obviously, this is a profound loss for the LGBTQ plus community for absolute sure, and he did a lot of incredible work.
yeah.
Also want to mention that I was scrolling through Facebook last night, and I learned about my Facebook friend. I only talked to him like once or twice but I was a really big fan of the work that he did. But Tom Kane also passed away
Yes.
here in Kansas City. He was born and raised in Overland Park, Kansas, which is not too far from where I presently am, like where I'm currently at recording this episode. And um, most people will know him from the Powerpuff Girls. He played Professor Utonium, I think is how you say it.
Yes.
I grew up watching Powerpuff Girls, so I was
Me too.
deeply saddened to hear about, that was a very key role on that show. He also played Yoda a couple times, which I'm in like the Clone Wars, which I'm not big into like Star Wars, but he did a lot of other incredible work. But unfortunately, he did pass away. Back in 2020, he had a really bad and like massive stroke, and he never recovered fully from it
Yeah.
as a lot of people do not. But I just wanted to throw that in there that unfortunately
Hmm.
Tom passed away here in Kansas City.
And in his
Um,
memory, who was your favorite Powerpuff Girl?
Probably Bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I would
liked
probably have to say Bubbles.
yeah, what was the pink one's name? I think I just liked her because her hair was pink and she was
That's
like
Buttercup, right?
the Buttercup is the green. Let me look it up.
God, it's been so long
It
since I've
has
watched the
been
Powerpuff
I
Girls.
know.
I
I
might have to
owned it
do a
on VHS.
binge. I might,
Blossom, the
yes,
commander and the leader of
yes.
the group. So I was like, oh my
I
gosh,
might have
yeah.
to do a deep dive or do like not necessarily like a deep dive, but just really like sit back and watch Powerpuff Girls again
Me
now.
too.
I was actually watching my mom's gonna hate whenever I say this, but I was watching SpongeBob episodes the other day.
Me and Marcus love SpongeBob.
But
My mom.
Gwen, here's the thing. Here's the thing about SpongeBob. Are you ready for this?
No, I'm
If
not.
you back then, my mom used to judge me hardcore, and she still judges me at 29 years old too. Not just for this, but a lot of other things because I do some really stupid shit. Um, but she was like, "What is so fascinating about a talking sponge?" I was like, "Dude, it's just really cool. Like SpongeBob is just that he's like that friendly neighbor that can be annoying at times, but he also speaks some really true knowledge. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing. Some of the episodes of SpongeBob, and I'll be the first to say this, I have a very crude and unusual mind myself, where I find a lot of humor in things. But some of those episodes we probably shouldn't have watched whenever we were kids because
Yeah,
I watch
probably
them
not.
now and I'm like the panty raid.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Gwen, it's so
Yeah,
bad.
it is. Yeah,
Um,
there's some problematic things on there.
but the characters that do or the people that do the characters, they are some incredible people like Tom Kenny.
Yeah.
Like there's some really good voice actors in that. And I got into watching Big Mouth.
Oh,
And you
I
want to
we
talk about a
love Big
show
Mouth.
that is so funny,
Yeah, it's so good.
but definitely not for children. That's for
No.
absolute sure.
That's like for
Because
an adult cartoon right
yeah, my
there.
mom
Yeah.
also has watched Big Mouth with me too, and she's like, "Oh my God." It's very raunchy, but it is funny as hell. Kind of like South Park.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh yeah.
man, I grew up watching South Park too. South Park is funny as shit, and Robot Chicken, and like all of those. Um, my mom didn't know I was watching half that stuff whenever I was younger, but she also is the one that used to
Oh.
buy me the GTA games whenever I was
Oh.
younger too. So, and I always say like, I'm really glad that I can't do half the things that I did on GTA because oof, it would be really bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that being said, I'm deeply saddened to hear about Barney and then obviously Tom too, and just
Yes.
think about that. But let's dive into something. Let's continue pushing forward. So you recently went to the Tennessee Capitol because, and we all saw this, we all watched this, and even here in Kansas, I was texting with you, make sure that everything's going good, make sure you're safe, etc. Can you walk us through like what you experienced while you were in Tennessee and while you were at the Capitol?
Yeah, so May 7th was when the Tennessee GOP voted to gerrymander Memphis, which is the only, Democratic majority district, which also happens to be the largest black district in Tennessee, and basically stripped them of their representation. So I was there out of support and to interview candidates and some friends, some fellow creator friends. At the Tennessee Capitol. And I mean, there are people that I know that I didn't even get to see because there were so many people there compared to, like other protests I've been to at the Tennessee Capitol. I think there is a turning point for people. I kind of always say, like, they're talking about there's a civil rights leader, and I apologize, I don't remember his name, but he was just talking about like once they gerrymandered Memphis that they're trying to get people of color back to slavery as close as they can that the Constitution will allow them. And that's so true because obviously we know slavery never went away. We see more black and brown people affected by the system than white people, of course. Um, and as you always say, Zachary, it's working as it was designed. So, we were there to support, and I mean, it was, it was, um, it was chaotic at times. There were so many state troopers there, which our tax dollars are paying for. Like, I don't even know how many. Like, I actually want to repost that video that Allie Phillips, who's a candidate for the Tennessee House of Representatives, she took a video of all these state troopers just hanging around, um, just there. And it's like they knew. And of course, they are going to have that many state troopers when they know that there's people of color, right, that are going to show up. That's just like one of the numerous racist things they do. Um, and so, obviously no violence happened, but people were so enraged. And when these old white politicians, mainly men, came out and like people were just calling them racist. And my friend Elizabeth Booker Houston, at Booker Squared, she was there. I got to interview her for Rise Above Justice Movement. Man, like the way she and a bunch of other um I mean, it wasn't just people of color there, it was white people too, which is also really important to note. Were yelling at these politicians, and rightfully so, telling them how racist they are, how ashamed they should be for voting to strip black voters of their representation. And coming back to like making everybody second class citizens again, like, you know, they did that with women in 2022 when they overturned Roe. And that was, you know, it wasn't like again, we said like slavery never went away, but that was like a turning point. And then now I think this is another turning point, and we're seeing how people are reacting. Um, and I just think it's gonna get more people out. Like we saw historic numbers in Georgia, and unfortunately the race didn't go the way we wanted to because again, lack of education. But I just think a lot of Democrats, independents will come out in these races because they're seeing the regression of human rights. And like unless you're a straight white Christian man, you are going to be affected by this, whether you like it or not. And the white women who are carrying the water for the patriarchy are going to drown with it. And I think more and more people are waking up, and it's sad to see until it affects you, right? Like a lot of people don't care. Um, and I mean, they talked about how like Trump this past election had the black male vote. They had Hispanic, like the male Hispanic vote. Like, I don't think those people are going to be turning out this time. And this might actually backfire on the Republicans for gerrymandering Tennessee and these other southern states like Louisiana. And I know they're going to try to do it in Alabama and all these other states, but because they're drawing the maps based on what happened in 2024 without realizing they've lost the Hispanic vote, the black vote, like a lot of the people that they had, it might backfire on them in a way that they're not expecting. So that day it was a lot of rage, but I think, you know, seeing Justin Jones, Justin J. Pearson, Afton Bain, Gloria Johnson, all these amazing people who eventually, or like maybe it was like the 2 days after whatever, they got stripped of their House committees for standing up. And basically all they did was when they were voting on this to literally go back to it's like Jim Crow 2.0. They linked arms in such a powerful way. Like I'll never forget watching that and getting goosebumps and stood there in solidarity, you know, just together, and walked out and of the House chamber and they got stripped of their house committees and subcommittees, um, which is another petty power grab by House Speaker Cameron Sexton. So again, I really hope this all backfires on them. I think it will in one way or another. And I think again, we just have to the majority of people that I interviewed were like, we just got to band together. And I interviewed someone from the Equity Alliance, Alexandra Haywood, a Black woman who's incredible. You know, just we need to listen to our Black and Brown communities and stand up with them. And as white people, really need to like sit back and like listen to what they have to say, because their experience in America is really the real American experience, not the white privileged experience. So
Mhm.
lots had happened that day, and lots I learned myself. Yeah.
And there's a lot more still going on. There is a recent article, and I think I believe this came out just this morning, just a couple minutes ago. Tennessee man jailed over Charlie Kirk post wins 835 mil or whoops, my bad, $835,000 settlement.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
Tennessee officials will pay $835,000 to settle a lawsuit filed by a man who was jailed for more than a month over a Facebook post he made about the assassination of conservative and podcaster activist Charlie Kirk. Whew. And all he had to say in his statement, well, I mean, there's more things that he said in the statement, but they quoted, I am pleased, quote, I am pleased my First Amendment rights have been vindicated, Bushart said in a statement announcing the settlement Wednesday. Quote, the people's freedom to participate in civil discourse is crucial to a healthy democracy. I am looking forward to moving on and spending time with my family. He was arrested in September after he refused to take down a Facebook meme, which had prompted an outpouring of grief amongst conservatives, including in Perry County. Where's Perry County, Tennessee? Where's that at? What part of?
What's it called? Period County?
Yeah, it's Perry,
Oh,
Perry.
Perry. I don't actually know where that is. It might be a
Because I know,
more rural area.
okay. Got it.
Yeah.
But essentially, he, posted like a lot of other people did, and he was fired from his job, and he was also arrested, and he did jail time. Um, so this is a win for freedom of speech, first of all, and the First Amendment,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
which
because if they're gonna
I
do it,
love.
then, the other side can do it to them. So they
Oh
better,
yeah, it actually
yeah.
literally just came out 49 minutes ago. Hell yeah. As of
Wow.
this podcast recording, almost noon on the 20th. But there was also some other stuff that just recently came out, and one of those is about a recent ruling from SCOTUS. And Gwen, I'm gonna pass this back. I've been eating too much pasta. Uh, my mom makes a killer spaghetti, and whenever I tell
Yum, I
y'all
bet.
we're supposed to have some like leftovers, there ain't no fucking leftovers. Um, Mifepristone or mifepristone.
Yeah.
This is significant.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into this, but I would love for you to talk about the SCOTUS ruling about mifepristone and, the future of like abortion rights and reproductive rights. Because, you wrote the Barefoot and Pregnant song and you said it best. Um, 9 out of 10, even evangelicals would agree, right? Like, and I know I just misquoted them, but
No, that's
I've li-
okay. Yeah.
I've listened to the song so many fucking times. But
Aren't you wearing the shirt right now, or am I?
oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
actually wearing which if you didn't know, this is kind of a shameless plug. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. Shameless plug. We do have merch that is available to support our work. We are independent. We are not backed by billionaires. We are not backed by corporations. We do have merch available on our in our bio on our social media, and you also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is going to be very active in the in the next couple of days. Even
Oh
I have a lot
yeah.
of things coming on, and then we have 3 weekly shows that we'll be posting about. So consistent content for everybody to enjoy. As always, it is free of charge. We don't have any paywalls. Obviously, there's going to be ads. But other than that, our podcast is popping off in a very good way. Our social media is continuously growing, and we obviously would love people's support to continue doing this work. I mean, we're going to do it with it or without it, even anyway, but we always find ways to do things through paid partnerships, etc. So we always find ways to do things. But if you feel compelled by what me and Gwen are doing, and me and Sarah, and um, you know, feel free to contribute in different ways. We also have a Venmo set up, so there's obviously that. There's all kinds of different ways that people can contribute. We have a broadcast channel on our Instagram where we'll be updating and doing some behind the scenes content. We also have a Patreon that we need to continue growing, so obviously there's that. There's all kinds of different ways. Head to the link in our bio and our website for more information, which is just riseabovejusticemovement.com. But I think I just kind of did it a little bit of an ad,
You did it. It was great.
but it's
I
our
just like
own
taking a little
ad.
break. Yeah. I mean, it's our show, so we got to do
So before I went on to my little rambling part,
it.
we were going to talk about the SCOTUS ruling.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to walk us through what this ruling is, what it does, and why it's significant in the fight for obviously reproductive rights and reproductive justice. I don't just use reproductive rights because we got to get justice for people like you, people like my mom, etc.
Yeah.
That, the right to choose is imperative, and abortion rights and reproductive rights, because it goes even beyond abortion,
Yeah.
but also just yeah. Why is this significant? It's significant for a lot of reasons, but I would love to get your opinion on this.
Well, I mean, it's significant. Like I said, r things really started happening. I feel like a change happened when Roe was overturned in 2022. And basically, SCOTUS's decision to allow mifepristone to be mailed by companies that we support and collaborate with, like Plan C pills, etc. And also I guess you can get some in some states you can get the mifepristone over the counter, but it also saves lives in ways that aren't, it's not just abortion, it's like miscarriage management. And it's a very safe, effective drug that the FDA has ruled safe and effective. And I mean, there's so much research done on this on this drug. Oh, Crunch Bar, heck yeah. Enjoy.
Sorry, I just had to add that in there really quickly. I'm eating a Crunch bar. So Gwen, continue.
I still love the Crunch Bars. Yeah. And it's significant because, you know, well, the conservative justices were so petty. They like dissented, right? And they acted all mad about it, but yet they allowed this ruling to happen because, and I swear this is why, like the pharmaceutical companies are deep in the pockets of these conservative judges, and I don't want to say they're not in the pockets of the liberal justices, but they are definitely in the pockets of the conservative justices, and I really think that's the only reason they allowed this. Some people are arguing they allowed this ruling to go through because there's probably going to be some other ruling that happens where it goes up to the Supreme Court, like from a lower court, and they will eventually ban mifepristone in some way, which would be like a national abortion ban. It's a backdoor national abortion ban. Um, so it's important we keep our eyes on this and like not think that this is the end of this conversation and them trying to ban the abortion pill. And there's an incredible investigative journalist and reproductive rights journalist, Jessica Valenti, who said it best that, you know, before Trump was elected the second term, what they were really banking on was that he would be reelected so that they could do this national ban. Even though they're all about states' rights and all this stuff, well, we're seeing women who are women and girls. Like there's a 14-year-old girl who was ripped from her mother very recently in a southern state, and they haven't identified the exact state yet because Jessica Valenti said they're trying to protect these girls and women their information right now. Um, and I think there's about to be a lawsuit and everything that's happening, so they have to be protected. But a 14-year-old was ripped from her mother because her mother was going to help her go out of state to get an abortion. And again, they're talking about states' rights and everything. Well, they're literally they're trapping women and girls in states. They're not going to let you cross state lines if they find out you're thinking about getting an abortion. And that is a direct violation of your rights. Like I think it's a direct violation of like the 14th Amendment. There's amendments that literally say you have the right to like travel. And this is literally like a travel ban. So I'm like, what's next? Are they gonna like put like pregnancy tests at the state borders now and like make you take one if you try to like leave your state? And but it is getting that way. I wouldn't be surprised. And now, everyone should look up what catch kits are, which is like when you have a miscarriage, they want you to take the remains of the miscarriage down to the police station in a catch kit. And miscarriages are already they're so traumatizing. Like, and you're gonna force women and girls to do this, and I mean, let alone you're forcing them to like give birth against their will and like do something with their bodies against their will. But I digress. This is just like ongoing. And again, we need to watch this,
Yeah.
what they're doing with mifepristone, because it is not the end. I think they're almost like waiting for a lower court to come up with a different lawsuit so it's more binding. And don't forget about the Comstock Act. They're going to try to enact something that was like a law from the 1800s to like ban the selling of mifepristone, the abortion pill. And again, the mifepristone is not just for abortions; it's also for miscarriage management and other medical reasons. Like women need that life-saving healthcare. Like it's healthcare we need and deserve, just like abortion. So, yeah. Keep
So
your eyes on that, y'all. We can't like let that pretend that that's the end. So,
absolutely. And that's the first what the fuck moment during this episode, but I haven't even more, and I would actually, you know, we're at the point of the show and the point of this episode where, I always got to bring in something that makes me like literally scratch my head. Okay. And this is definitely that point. I know we're going to talk about some like IRS stuff and me meeting a civil rights leader and, talks on trans people and, it's kind of like sit back and just shoot the shit. There's also an anniversary of a mass shooting this week, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But the Pentagon released over 100 UFO files. And I'm sitting here, and this is like one of those. I would actually add another letter into what the fuck, because I would actually add it into a what the actual fuck. It used to be, whenever Trump first took office, I was working in AmeriCorps. Okay. And I would always text my mom and I would call her and I'd be like, "Are you ready for today's what the actual fuck moment?" Because it seemed like there for a minute and it's increasingly gotten worse like ever since. But after he took office the second time, every day it is something else. Now, the fact
Ain't
that we're
that the
getting
truth?
the fact that we're getting more of the UFO files than we ever did of the Epstein files
Right?
is very
Exactly.
telling, first of
It
all.
is.
But thinking about the UFO and alien files, there's an article from Time magazine, and it said there's no telling why aliens decided to descend on the community outside Stockton, California on February 18th, 1947, and no telling, truth be told, that they actually did. But Leland Sammers, a farmer who lived 14 miles west of Stockton, is certain he had visitors. What?
Uh,
On May 8th, President Donald Trump ordered the release of more than 170 files on a Department of War website, some dating back to the 1940s. The accounts are made available just as they were originally reported, with neither clarification nor explanation by the government. Some of them are from farmers and other layfolk, like Sammers. Some are from commercial pilots, and some from Navy pilots who have captured videos through their windshield of what appeared to be alien craft bobbing and hovering and darting and weaving in ways no known aircraft can manage. I'm going to
here's
pause for a second because what?
yeah, I was gonna say here's the thing. I was listening to I've Had It podcast and Jennifer Welch freaking love I've Had It podcast, and she had an expert who literally has a podcast about like UFOs and like all these things like the government and you know all the
That's
sightings and
insane.
stuff. And they were like, okay, first of all, how many files have they released of the UFOs? Like 100,
It's
over
like
100, you said?
170. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, "Listen, like our iPhone cameras are like better quality than the videos that they're releasing. It's like super grainy stuff. Um, so like them soft launching aliens right now to distract is one like they're talking about how again, this could backfire. Like it's important information the American people deserve, but like a lot of like Trump's base is obviously very religious, and this is kind of like an existential thing for them where they might start thinking differently, because they have a very binary view of the world, in terms of like, not all religions, but a lot of religions keeps you very binary and like thinking a certain way about how the earth was created, etc. And yeah, I think it's something that, they got to be careful with because, I think I think the only reason Trump is doing this is to keep distracting. Um, and I mean, I'm someone who I personally believe that there's life outside of like human beings and what we have here on planet Earth. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but there's like horrible AI pictures that Trump is posting. Like he posted one of him on True Social, like it might have been last night where he's like with like walking with an alien from Air Force One, like just like a typical looking alien, and has him in handcuffs, like taking him away. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, are you trying to like make a threat or are you trying to like make us like excited about aliens? I just don't know what their purpose of this is. Like now. What do you think, Zachary?
You want to know what I think, Gwen?
I do.
You asked me the wrong question. I think it's all just a bunch of hoopla and it's a bunch of bullshit. And I have to agree. I definitely think that there is definitely life outside of humans. It's called a poodle. No.
Yes, beyond animals and
Like, but no,
insects.
I think there's definitely something. There have been some like really freaky like occurrences and things like that, but this is not something we should be focusing on whenever people are literally dying
It's such a
because of lack of
distraction.
healthcare and gun violence and a number of other things. We should not be focused on a fucking
Yeah,
alien.
just release the Epstein files, y'all. Let's go.
Yes, unredacted.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
I hope now that Thomas Massey's ousted, I hope he's like wanting to just,
Look at you.
You know what?
drop all the
I just hope
names.
he exposes it all. He has
I
seven
hope
months to fuck
so.
some shit up,
Do
and
it. Yeah, come
I think
on.
he's definitely going to. He's that kind of person that would. He's very ornery. Um, I
Well,
think he would be the one
yes.
that definitely would do it. And just
I hope
expose.
so. Honestly, what else is there to lose? Like, I would honestly have more respect for him if he did that. I'd be interested to hear what Harry Dunn had to say if he did that. But
Oh, absolutely. I
yeah.
think so too. And that kind of brings me into talking about the next topic is
Hmm.
about the IRS
Yeah.
and this lawfare fund. And I'm using like extreme air quotes on this. I would love for you to kind of talk about this a little bit because, as you said, we just sat down and interviewed Harry Dunn, who was a Capitol Police officer during January 6, 2021. I would love for you to talk about that and then talk about, this because there is a new lawsuit that was filed, I believe, this morning about this. So I would love for you to kind of
Yeah.
talk about this.
Yeah, we interviewed Harry yesterday and he said he couldn't talk about but he had something in the works and it was this lawsuit. And if y'all don't know, the Trump administration just basically ordered the DOJ to take almost $2 billion of our taxpayer money to give to January 6 rioters to basically, as Harry Dunn would say, like it's a down payment for Trump's militia to pay them uh, and they're trying to argue that they were wrongfully convicted and, that they didn't actually cause all the violence and destruction. It was actually the Capitol Police officers. So I'm very grateful to hear Harry Dunn and another Capitol Police officer. I don't know, Zachary, if you have the name of that police officer, are suing because this is wild. And I was saying before that there is a clause in this. Lawsuit or like the settlement payment to that Trump and his family will forever like never have to be audited and any mistakes they made with their taxes before can't be prosecuted forever. I don't know how binding this will actually be, like, especially like obviously, I don't think Trump has any plan to actually leave office, but this kind of makes me think that he is preparing just like a little safety net for himself. But I think that this is illegal. It's definitely illegal, and I don't know how this would hold up in court. Like, can we just like rip up this document, please? Like, like I just don't know how any of this is legal, and like I think, you know they think they're so clever, right? To like cover up their corruption, but also if they were innocent, they wouldn't do this. So, and someone commented on our video, by the way, Zachary, like the of our of the lawyer saying that like, this is like one of the most corrupt things like an administration's ever done. And they're like, well, Obama did it and Biden did it and blah 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 and the Clintons. And I was like, no one in history has ever done this. Like, what are you talking about? And this is stuff like Fox News is saying right now. Oh, well, Obama already did this. Like he never has to be audited. And
Shameless
I'm like,
plug. Fuck Fox News.
fuck Fox News. Yeah. Literally one of the downfalls of society, American society, was Fox News. So yeah, Rupert Murdoch he can rot.
He just bought a couple other like news sources too, I believe, and I just read about that too. Um, so you talked about going to Tennessee, and I want to talk really quickly about something that I recently attended as of last week. And again, I want to give a viewer discretion as advised due to the nature of what I am getting ready to talk about, because it does involve a murder of a 3-year-old child. So, on April 28th, 2001, Erica Michelle Marie Green, also known as Precious Doe, was a 3-year-old that was murdered here in Kansas City, Missouri. Her body was decapitated. Her body was discovered on April 28th of 2001, and the upper part of her body was found nearby on May 1st, but she remained unidentified until May 5th of 2005. So 4 years later, they pieced together what her name was, and her name is Erica Michelle Marie Green. but for years she was known as Precious Doe. This story broke international headlines. And still, to this day, it has a mark in Kansas City history. And I'll be doing more of a deep dive with Sarah D. Armand. I mean, like I said, our other or our other podcast co-host that's coming on to help me tell these stories. So Gwen is going to kind of take away this pressure from you and put it on to somebody who does it
Yeah.
just like I do.
Yeah.
So this is more of like a mental health focus, right? Because this one attracted very significant media attention and public attention. Um, they created a Precious Doe committee who were the ones who actually, alongside police, investigated this case. And I actually went to the memorial, and her birthday would have been April 21st or May 15th. Um, I attended a memorial or a vigil here in Kansas City, and at the park that we were at, she was found literally right across the street in a wooded
Mm.
area. Um, Also at this park is a children's memorial that has 150 plus names of children that have been murdered or killed otherwise by violence. And this, however, like I said, I was 5 years old at the time that the news broke out of Erica Green. And as I was telling the detective, Sergeant, or he was a police officer at the time, his name is Sergeant David Bernard. He was the one that cracked this case and was the one that solved it. But I got a chance to meet him and talk to him a little bit. And there's a possibility he will be coming on the podcast very soon. Hopefully, I'm working on getting all that together. One of the people that I met is Alvin Brooks. So Alvin Brooks is a civil rights leader here in Kansas City. He's done very impactful and incredible work. He is 94 years old. And whenever I tell you he gets around faster than I do, like it's like I blinked once and he was right here, and then I blinked again and he was on the other side talking to news media again. I was like, damn, he goes faster than I do, and he's 94 years old. I'm like, holy shit, I have a fucked up ankle, and he's over here like, going around. He's interacting with people. I got to get a picture with him. I learned about Alvin. I used to work with one of his close friends at a organization that I used to work at, and his name is Carl. And Carl is a huge like civil rights person and advocate for like just people, right? But I used to work with him, and I mentioned that, and Alvin's face just like lit up whenever I talked about Carl because he was like, "Oh, I love Carl. He's one of my best people," and he's like, "I just saw him. He's doing really well." Which Carl was old too, and but I just wanted to add in that this case left a mark on Kansas City. And this isn't the only one. There are several others. Kelsey Smith was abducted from a Target store in Overland Park, Kansas, which again, I'll be talking about on this podcast during our Justice Hour. We'll be doing deep dives into cases like this, but um, I went recently and visited the gravesite of Kelsey Smith, and then I'm getting ready to go visit the gravesites of Sam and Lindsay Porter, who was murdered by their father and left behind their home. Getting ready to go visit their cemeteries and the graves as well. But just wanted to add that in there.
That's a beautiful way to remember them too.
And I think, just keep telling these stories because the mainstream media is not going to tell these stories.
Yeah.
And luckily, I will tell you this, there was a lot of news media that was present during this vigil. And I was really glad to see that. So they're keeping that name alive. And speaking of local news media, I also learned of another death that recently occurred. Cynthia Newsom was one of my favorite reporters with
Mm.
KSHB, which is our local, or KSHB 41, which is our local NBC affiliate. She recently just passed away. She's been battling cancer for many years. She is a legendary journalist here in Kansas City, and we are deeply going to miss her work. I got to meet Cynthia a couple times. I didn't get to do like any interviews with her, but I interacted with her. I got to introduce myself to her, and she's like, "Thank you for the work that you're doing." Um, but that's going to leave a profound loss here in the Kansas City metro too. Definitely a lot to take in. like we said at the beginning of this, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot, and it's really hard to kind of like pinpoint and talk about all of it because we don't have enough time to sit down and talk about it because there's so much, which is why I'm glad we're going to be doing this weekly because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But pivoting a little bit and talking about SB 63 here in the state of Kansas. I want to talk significantly about this. Um, Recently, in an article as of May 15th of 2026, a state court blocks Kansas ban on gender affirming medical care. A state, and this is from the ACLU of Kansas. Now, this is actually really good because this bill passed, and essentially they blocked the enforcement of it. And this is significant. This is very significant. Um, They found that the law likely violates the Kansas state constitution. SB 63 prohibited medical providers in the state of Kansas from providing gender affirming medical treatments such as hormone therapies and pubertal. Oh, I can never say this word, essentially puberty blockers. Um, Diagnosed with gender dysphoria, the law allows these same treatments to be provided to cisgender youth for any other reason. SB 63 was passed by Kansas state legislature in January of 2025, then vetoed by Governor Kelly, who said in her veto statement, quote, "It is not the job of politicians to stand between a parent and a child who needs medical care of any kind." The bill took effect on February 20th of 2025. In May of 2025, or LOE Low versus Kansas was filed by the ACLU and the ACLU of Kansas in the District Court of Douglas County, charging SB 63 with violating the Kansas Constitution's guarantees of equal protection and fundamental rights. The case was filed synonymously on behalf of 16-year-old Ryan Rowe and his mother, Rebecca Rowe, as well as a 13-year-old Lily Lowe and her mother, Lisa Lowe. Now, what's significant about this is the judge that blocked this did a very detailed, like, how they always do like a dissent or, kind of like that. He did a very detailed one,
Mm.
and I'm not going to read through it, but he kind of laid it out, and he did a phenomenal job with this, and I was actually really impressed. I was like, this is a really good judge that gives a damn about Kansans. And he did a phenomenal job in his dissent on this and the reasons why he blocked this. This is a win, but it is definitely not over yet.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that. And, we're at the point of the show where we're just going to kind of shoot the shit for a little bit and talk about some updates. But before we get into that really quickly, I do want to highlight that this Sunday marks the anniversary of the Uvalde school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 students and two teachers were killed. And I just want to take a moment that this is the 4-year anniversary of that. We do collaborate with Lives Robbed, which is parents and community members grieving the loss of these 19 students and these two teachers. And this was a horrific school shooting, as all of them are. This one probably hit me probably the hardest. I was also alive during obviously Sandy Hook in 2012,
Yeah.
and I know how it was whenever I went through a school lockdown because of an active shooter drill.
Yep.
However, there were two significant situations, once in middle school and once in high school, that it wasn't a drill. It was not a drill. And I do understand all too well what it feels like to not be able to contact my parent in a time that I needed to contact my parent because the teacher took our cell phones. Or wouldn't allow cell phones in the classroom, like, period. They either had to be in our locker, they had to be, put away, or she would take them at the beginning of class. I was not able to get a hold of my mom, and my mom sees it on social media, like, what the fuck is going on? She's trying to call me,
Yeah.
trying to text me. She can't get a hold of me, which is why banning
Mm.
cell phones is not the correct thing for this, because that administration of that school and the teachers are not going to take the time to contact every single parent student or every single student's parent. They're not going to take the time to do that. Plus, they also don't get paid for that shit.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. I obviously understand the cell phones are a huge distraction. I do get that. However, if that is the only route of communication during a tragedy as a school shooting, because America is not addressing this as a public health crisis, because it absolutely is. Gun violence runs rampant in our communities, targets Black and brown individuals, and yeah, it's deeply alarming. But just wanted to mention about the Uvalde school shooting. Our friend Ricky, or AKA the gay liberal down in Texas, is one of my favorite people, one of my favorite human beings. He's like an extended member of our organizing team, essentially
Yeah.
with Rise Above Justice Movement. And he texted me last night and he said, "We got a lot of work to do." And I said, "My friend, you don't even realize how deep it really goes. This has been going on longer than me, you, and Gwen have been alive
Yeah.
combined, you
Yeah.
know?
It's true.
This is nothing new, but we need to address it exactly how it is. And it is a policy choice, and it is a systemic failure of society in which we are failing our future generations and allowing them to grow up around gun violence and grow up around domestic violence and poverty. And these are things that even before my mom was born, have been going on, and we need to address it. But you have new music coming out. Let's talk about something that's actually positive, right? So you
Hmm.
have new music coming out, you're an independent music artist. And during your podcast episode, whenever we first launched this podcast, you mentioned about being shunned by the country music and about the mainstream um, like music industry. You're to this and you're to that, or you're not this and you're not that. And, you know, you've also been banned off of radio. Um, I
Well,
laugh, but
certain
it's
like
like, yeah.
playlists, right? So like that would like literally I have an email that I screenshotted where it's like, "Oh my God, they usually love this kind of music, like so upbeat, so fun, and so well done, but they were just like, we are not risking our listeners." And like this was 2023, right? So like a year after, maybe a
Mhm.
year after Roe v. Wade was overturned. So
Which is insane. It really is.
crazy. The
And
censorship is so real. And then not
mhm,
even being able to like run ads on Meta and TikTok because like through barefoot because of barefoot like because of the subject matter. Yet like people can run ads on like songs about drinking and all this stuff. Like men can like talk about whatever they want in country music and
of course.
all this stuff. So, yeah.
I think in country music, there's very heavy misogyny and very heavy,
Oh
you see it
yeah.
a lot with Dolly Parton. She's
Who
been very
was
vocal and
who her one of her first songs I learned was
mhm,
banned because it talks about a woman, a teenage woman
mhm,
or girl
mhm.
having a child out of wedlock and they were
Yep.
like, "No, we're not
One
gonna
of the
talk about
other
this."
artists that I think about whenever it comes to misogyny is definitely Loretta Lynn.
Oh yeah.
And, she called it out. She was unafraid and unapologetic to call it out. And she noticed it quite a bit. And I know some other independent artists, and all of you have um, the exact same like response. Or, like whenever you guys write music, they see it as controversial, or they see it as this, or they see it as that. When you wrote the Barefoot and Pregnant song, as a response to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. What did the marketing look like? So you mentioned a little bit during your podcast episode, and we'll obviously do a more deeper dive into this. Um, but what did like the marketing look like? And I did not intend on this to be turning into an interview, just to be clear. I've been interviewing so many people that this is definitely turned
It's
into it.
just
But
naturally
it's
happening.
just like I'm just genuinely curious for people who may not understand like how complex the censorship actually is. But if you weren't able to run ads on Meta and weren't able to be played on some radios or being on some playlist, what did the marketing look like for you? Because this song continues to go viral, and I think it's even more relevant to this day. And I actually learned about you because you stood outside the Tennessee state capitol with a giant inflatable IUD, and it went viral. But what did that marketing look like for you? Can you talk about that very briefly? And just, it's definitely difficult being an independent artist. And people think that, oh, my music is on Spotify, I'm going to make money. Oh, no.
My God, if only people knew how little money I've made off of like a song that has over 25 million views. And
Mhm.
I mean, A
Mhm.
million streams doesn't even, I think it gets you like maybe $3,000. And if you have a label and all this stuff, and I don't, but I do have a distribution company and they take a percentage of that. And it's like they're taking a percentage of that. And, like you're not making that much money. And,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, marketing wise, like again, independent artist, so I don't have a label giving me an ad budget, but um, I'm fortunate, well, unfortunately, my aunt passed away, and
Mhm.
I don't talk about this very often, but she did leave some money, and my parents are so great. Like, I'm just so grateful they believe in me so much, so they were able to we were able to spend a little bit of money on an ad budget, but like you said, I think I had to hire like an ad team who could figure out ways to get around a lot of the things, and a lot of the stuff I had to figure out on my own was just like how to get around the censorship. And even then, like I think it just naturally went viral on its own. Like this topic is not going away, and the song has really resonated with people and continues to resonate. And I've been doing like so. Um, I'm not trying to like tire out my audience, but I try to post barefoot and pregnant pretty much every day now because I do like trial reels. So that'll go out to people that the trial reels are on Instagram, and like that goes out to people that don't follow me. So like it pulls in new audiences, and every day I get more people like, "Oh my God, I love this song." Like, "Oh my God, what a patriot," all of this stuff. And and um but yeah, I like literally like had to answer your question, I had to hire an ad team to for that first year to like help me just figure out ways to get around the censorship because it is crazy. And I do still have TikTok, but my views on TikTok, like it's dead. Like I don't know if it's
Dead on
censorship or
arrival.
what, so dead. And so I actually had to reach out to that same ad team, and they have a meeting with their TikTok rep to see what's going on with my account. Is that funny?
Sorry, I'm thinking from like the true crime perspective, like dead on arrival. I just cracked myself
Oh,
up. I had
yeah,
to put
yeah.
myself on mute because I
I
was
mean,
like, I
it
don't know why
is.
that made me laugh, but it did. Like
I
just I don't know.
know. And I debated like especially with the Oracle taking over TikTok. I was like, should I get off TikTok? Like I wanted to, but I have like almost 60,000 followers on there, and I just was like, I want to at least like try to get to them before I delete my TikTok, and I haven't been able to. Like sometimes my views are like crazy. Like they're like just like like maybe 60 views. Some of them's like 3 views on TikTok. So there's definitely something going on with my TikTok. But hopefully we figure that out and whatever. I'm really glad Instagram is, but they're all problematic. But I'm glad that we're like getting seen on
Somehow,
there. Somehow
s-
we are getting through on Instagram so
somehow I
far.
keep breaking
Knock
through
on
it,
wood, knock on
and
wood. Like I don't know like how long that's gonna last, but I mean they can silence like we're seeing a lot of like LGBTQ plus and reproductive rights, females like accounts about female sexuality being like pulled just out of nowhere. Like Balesa is like that was a company that very LGBTQ plus women centered. Like talking about women's pleasure, like oh my God, God forbid, but there's so much out there for men, right? That's allowed, but that account gets banned at like almost 1 million followers. So.
you know what? I'm gonna say this, and the same people that are behind Meta and the same people that are behind, TikTok and etc. They're banning, like you said, they're banning accounts about pleasure, which makes me wonder about their own lives.
Yeah, right.
It's like you live a very dry life, and it shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be real. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
banning accounts about pleasure, it tells you a lot about their own lives, and that censorship is definitely there. But with that being said, this is the end of this podcast episode and the end of our weekly show. Or just this episode of the weekly show. We're going to continue doing this and continue pushing forward because we got a lot more to cover and a lot more that I didn't even get a chance to talk about today but we will definitely do it next week. And, Gwen, as always, It's always good to see you, and I know I'll see you later today because we have a really important interview for the podcast that's coming up. It will be Jerry Green, who is running to be the next governor of Tennessee. So if
Yep,
you are
against
in Tennessee, get
Marsha
your ass out.
Blackburn.
If you're in Tennessee, get your ass out there and vote against Marsha. This is not the good Marsha that we all grew up with. This is somebody that Marsha needs to go the fuck
Yeah,
away.
as
Um,
as Taylor Swift said it, she's Trump in a wig. So we
Literally
got to get her out.
to the T.
Yeah, she's
Literally to the
obsessed with
T.
Trump. Oh my God. She's
Yeah,
like,
it's a little scary to be
it is.
honest.
It's a little weird. Yeah.
Makes me want to check her flash
More
drive.
than a little weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Check her flash drive, and she reminds me of a older or a younger version of Kay Ivey, the Alabama governor. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, with that being said, how can people find you on social media? Obviously, they can follow us at Rise Above Justice Movement, riseabovejusticemovement.com. We have links that are in our bios on our social media. But Gwen, how can people find you on social media and uplift just your voice and what you were doing?
Thanks. Yeah, it's my website is gwenlevyandthebreakdown.com. That's Levy with two E's. And at Gwen Levy Music on Instagram and at Gwen Levy and the Breakdown. I have two accounts, but my main one is at Gwen Levy Music. And of course, follow us at Rise Above Justice Movement.
All right. Gwen, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you very soon.
See you soon.